The apartment was a cage of comfortable habits. For 3 years, Elias had lived in Unit 4B, a space defined by its predictability. He knew the exact pressure needed to stop the kitchen faucet from dripping, the specific floorboard outside the bedroom that groaned under his weight, and the precise geography of his hallway. It was a long, narrow artery connecting the organs of his life. Every evening, returning broken from his shift at the logistics warehouse, Elias performed a mindless ritual. He counted the doors as he walked toward the living room couch. 1. The bathroom smelling faintly of lavender soap. 2. The linen closet door slightly askew. 3. The bedroom, his sanctuary of sleep. 4. The kitchen archway. 5. The living room entry. 5 doors. And then the blank, cream-colored wall at the dead end, separating his silent life from Mrs. Higgins and her constantly barking terrier in 4C. Tonight was different. The air in the stairwell had felt heavy, charged with the static of an approaching storm that the weather app hadn't predicted. Elias dropped his keys in the bowl, shrugged off his coat, and began his walk. 1, he mumbled, rubbing his tired eyes, bathroom. 2, closet. 3, bedroom. 4, kitchen. 5, living room. He took 2 more steps toward the dead end, ready to turn into the living room, and stopped dead. His breath hitched in his throat, turning into a dry cough. There was a 6. Where the blank wall had always been, there was now a door. It was an obscenity against the bland architecture of the building. It wasn't a modern, hollow-core door like the others. It was ancient, built from heavy, rough-hewn timber blackened by age and something, oily that seemed to seep from the grain. It was painted a repulsive bile green color, the paint blistered and peeling like diseased skin, revealing the charred wood beneath. There was no handle, no hinges visible on this side, just a single tarnished brass keyhole in the center, large enough to insert a finger. Elias stood frozen, his mind desperately trying to rationalize the impossible. A prank. A sudden renovation by the landlord he hadn't been notified about? He took a tentative step forward. The air grew noticeably colder as he approached the 6th door. A foul smell drifted from it, the cloying, sweet scent of damp earth, rotting leaves, and stagnant water. It smelled like the underside of a gravestone. He reached out a trembling hand to touch the wood. It was freezing, slimy with condensation. Then the sound began. It came from the other side. Scritch, 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 asterisk. It was slow, deliberate, like a thick fingernail lazily dragging across the wood grain. Elias snatched his hand back as if burned. He knew what was behind that wall. It was Mrs. Higgins' apartment. At this hour he should be hearing the muted sounds of asterisk, Wheel of Fortune, asterisk, or her dog yapping at shadows. Instead, there was only that wet, rhythmic scratching. Asterisk, scritch, scritch. It stopped abruptly. Elias held his breath. The silence in the hallway became deafening. The hum of the refrigerator seemed miles away. He felt an inexplicable, horrific urge, a magnetic pull born of pure primal terror. He had to know. Slowly, agonizingly, he leaned forward. He pressed his ear against the cold, blistered green paint right next to the brass keyhole. He heard breathing. It wasn't human breathing. It was wet, rattling deeper than any lung capacity should allow. It sounded like mud bubbling in a swamp. The presence on the other side shifted. He felt the heavy wood creak as something massive pressed against it, mirroring his position. Then a voice drifted through the keyhole. It was a whisper, but it carried no warmth, only an ancient icy hunger. It sounded like dry leaves skittering on pavement. Finally, the whisper hissed, the breath hitting Elias's ear with the stench of open soil. You came. Elias tried to pull away, but his muscles locked. Paralysis gripped him. We have been waiting so long, little counter, the voice gurgled. Let us in. The spell broke. Elias stumbled backward, crashing into the wall opposite, gasping for air. He scrambled sideways, crab walking away from the monstrosity at the end of his hall. He ran into the living room, grabbing his cell phone from the coffee table. Dead, black screen. He grabbed the landline. No dial tone, just a low, wet static that sounded suspiciously like the breathing behind the door. He looked back toward the hallway. The green door was leaking. A thick, black, tar-like substance was oozing from beneath the frame, spreading across his cheap laminate flooring like an inkblot test. Where the tar touched the normal walls of his hallway, the wallpaper began to yellow and curl, instantly aging decades in seconds. Feed. The noise shook the apartment fittings. It wasn't a scratch anymore. Thud. Something heavy threw itself against the door from the other side. The brass keyhole whistled as air was forced through it. Feed. Elias saw the heavy timber bow outward. The wood groaned in agony. Splinters popped, firing across the hall like shrapnel. Let us in. The voice roared now, no longer whispering. It was a chorus of voices, a legion of wet throats screaming in unison. Panic ripped through Elias. He couldn't get out the front door. The spreading tar blocked the path. He retreated, back past the kitchen, past the bedroom. He dove into the bathroom door number 1 and slammed it shut, locking the flimsy privacy lock. He backed against the tiled wall, sliding down into the empty bathtub, pulling the shower curtain closed as if that thin plastic could protect him. Outside, the crashing stopped. Elias squeezed his eyes shut, praying to gods he didn't believe in. Then he heard it, the sound that broke him completely. It was the sound of ancient wood splintering, a wet, tearing noise followed by a heavy, slapping impact on the hallway floor. The green door had fallen. Silence returned for a heartbeat. Then came the footsteps. They were shuffling, dragging sounds. Not 2 feet. Many, too many. They sounded soft and damp like raw meat dropped on vinyl flooring. Slap drag. They were exploring. He heard things being knocked over in the kitchen. He heard the refrigerator door ripped off its hinges. He heard deep, animal sniffing noises echoing through his sanctuary. The smell seeped under the bathroom door, the overwhelming stench of an open crypt, of things that should stay buried. The shuffling grew closer. They were in the hallway now. He heard them pause outside the bedroom door, sniffing, moving on. Outside the linen closet door, sniffing, moving on. They stopped outside the bathroom door. Elias whimpered, clamping his hands over his mouth. A shadow fell across the gap under the door, blocking the hall light. He heard the wet, rattling breath right up against the wood. Then a voice spoke. It wasn't the ancient, gurgling voice from before. It was a perfect mimicry. It was Elias's own voice, flat and exhausted, just as he had sounded 10 minutes ago. His own voice said from the other side of the door. Slowly, painstakingly, the doorknob began to turn.